Let's be honest, parenting can be messy and hard, but also so rewarding. In this podcast, we'll share all the ups and downs of parenthood, as well as share some of our favorite tips and tricks for parenting using both our experiences and expertise from our professional lives as a speech and language pathologist and teacher, but also our everyday lives as moms, just trying to balance it all. We're so glad you could join us.
Hello, welcome to And Then We Had Kids. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Sheena.
And I don't know, I think we've talked about this, but this summer we are going on a nice trip to Hawaii. My brother's getting married there this summer, and the kids are coming along, and it kind of started out as like, awesome. How are we going to make that happen? Who can we bring to help us? And our friend Rachel, who has been on our podcast before, amazing friend. Even more amazing is that she's coming with, and we're bringing her along. She's going to help out.
Which I'm sure she's really upset about because she has been dying to go to Hawaii for probably as long as I've known her.
Yeah. So it was funny because, in trying to decide what we were doing, and it was always like, or not always, it started off by like, of course, let's bring Rachel. She'll help us with our kids. Like, the kids aren't invited to the reception. Like, it's all good. Like, we need somebody so that we can enjoy. And we're like, hey, do you want to come to Hawaii in the off chance that you're free and you have the time? And then you were like toying with the idea of like, well, maybe like the two of us, like my husband and I, like maybe we should just go and like leave the kids behind. And I'm like, that's cool. We just told our friend that we were going to take her to Hawaii. And now it's going to be like, psych, just kidding. You're going to stay home with all three kids. Like,
right.
We're going, we're committed. We're making a lot of deep breathing. Like, it's going to be great. And it just so happens that you have family in Hawaii.
I do.
So we're like, wouldn't it be great if you guys came too? Not like you're not attending the wedding, but like, let's just have a fun vacation.
Turn this into a whole thing.
Yeah. So then, and we did. So we are. So we're going this summer. And in like chatting the other day, you and I discovered that we were like, okay, we get on these like trains of really focusing on ourselves, and we get like, traction. And the two of us are going to like workout classes again. And I'm so proud of us. What'd you say?
I said begrudgingly, but I actually have been having a really good time. I found a studio by my house that I can walk to, and I actually really like it. So I shouldn't say begrudgingly.
Well, it's just like, it's something you gotta do. And sometimes you just want to like sit around and do nothing, but you're always going to be happy that you worked out. And so you've been doing like a Pilates class.
I've been doing shred.
Yeah. If I do like shred, I truly enjoy it's become my like Sunday morning routine at shred. I'm the person though, that if you're like a sprinter, like you kind of want to be next to me to make yourself feel really good. Cause I'm just like jogging like at a leisure pace. So I will be like your confidence booster. If you're a really good runner, that's not me, but at least I just tell myself like, hey, I'm here.
I can't run without peeing my pants. So I just don't like doing it.
That's fair. That's very fair. Also, the joys of having children. It's like, you just have to figure out what works.
And side note, I have seen a pelvic floor therapist. I am getting medical help for this.
Right. Like, you're taking
ladies, don't be ashamed of it.
No, you definitely, if you're wondering if that's something you should be doing. I know, Sheena, you've been like a really good like supporter, get the word out there, being like, yeah, if that's something that's going on for you, like, don't just let it be.
Yeah.
But anyway, you had your class tonight.
Yeah. So I'm not a morning workout person like some of our friends are.
Me neither. I never have been. And I just don't see that happening.
I've been asked to attend 6 a.m. workouts with them, and I have politely declined. Maybe one of these days I'll get my behind up in time to do that, but I am just not a morning person, period.
Yes.
I think all of my friends know this about me.
True.
So I've been doing them in the evenings, like once dinner's all done, or maybe while dinner's getting ready, I'll run out and do a quick workout class. Tonight, I just happened to time it not so greatly in that I knew we were planning to record tonight.
Yeah.
I did both afternoon pickups for children. My husband, Chicago today is absolutely glorious when we're
Ugh,
recording this, and he's
so nice out.
really excited to get out and grill.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
nice of your husband.
it is because he's really good at it.
Yes, he is.
And so I made the unfortunate decision to eat my dinner before my workout because I knew we were doing this after.
Yeah.
And my
What'd you
dinner,
have for dinner, Sheena?
what?
What'd you have for dinner that you just told me?
Oh, let me tell you, I had an onion loaded hot dog and it was delicious
I just
until
until the Pilates class
until a
today.
Pilates class. And I texted my sister. I was like, and I texted my husband on my walk back. I was like, the burps were fierce during class.
That's incredible. Hey, you're like, at least I'm here. Sorry. Like, yeah, that's me. But
Well,
let
the
me
best
tell
part
you
was
about my husband's grilling skills.
my husband was like, well, I could have told you that was a bad idea. I was like, well, you didn't. So next time I have the brilliant idea to eat an onion loaded hot dog right before I go work out, please tell me that that isn't a poor decision.
Oh, that's so hard. Because you
You
want
know
to have
what?
like a dinner. You want it to be like right when it's cooked and it's fresh and
It
it's
was
there.
delicious.
And yeah, I just love it. I just feel like you gotta take,
Choices were made.
yeah, exactly. You take it and you run with it. You're still going to class and you're a little stinky,
Yeah.
but you were happy.
I was happy when I ate it. Not so happy during the workout, but that was also because
Uh,
it's a
well,
challenging
that was
workout.
I went to over the weekend on Saturday, took my daughter to a friend's birthday party. And I don't know if anybody around the North Shore area has ever been to a place called Funtopia. Have you been there, Sheena?
I have not. I feel like this is a place I try to avoid.
Mm, yes. So, there's always like, I don't know how it works with you and your husband, but it's like a toss up of who goes to the kids' birthday parties. Like, what other parents are there, who's the friend, what's the activity, all that stuff. And this was a 2.5 hour birthday party, which was a very long birthday party for kindergartners.
Oh boy.
It's like a big rock climbing like gym area, and like kids have to wear harnesses and you have to like get them hooked in, and they're like, it's a lot of work. And I was under the impression that there were like workers at this place that would have helped like the kids,
Yeah.
since it was like a birthday party. Because on the invitation, it said it was like a guided adventure and a guided fun or something like that.
Okay.
I was like, fine, I'll take her. I'll go have 2.5 hours. I'll maybe like go get my nails done. I had some like work to do. I stayed. I had to stay the whole time because it
Were
was
you
important.
providing the guidance?
I was the guide. I it was me. Um, because the way they like, I'm not going to be able to explain this very well, but the the what's the care like being what is
Okay.
it?
Carabiner, is that what
Yes,
it is?
I think you're right. I apologize for any rock climbing
Rock
experts out
climbers,
there.
hikers.
I know it's a harness. Yeah, but you had to like clip them in order for it to like the like rope to essentially be released from this like with whole place on the ground. Like it was like impossible. There was no way my daughter was gonna be able to do it by herself. And there were many times where I was like, girl, just go up the same one again. Like you're hooked up there. I can't get you out. And the workers were like these sweet, sweet, like high schoolers, right? Like just like walking
Oh,
around. And they essentially were waiting for like parents to be like waving their arms to be like, help me. So it was like I was sore
oh,
from, because you had to like pull on this one lever to get like the carabiner out and then like to unlock it. It was a whole to do. I think everyone should experience it because I'm clearly not doing a very good job of explaining it. But I was sore. And then the next day went to shred. And like the first leg of like on the treadmill, I was like,
oof.
oh my, oh, I feel it in places I didn't know. But again, I'm so proud of us for going to workout classes.
I'm proud of us for going and sticking to it.
Yeah, totally. I do recall when I was working at the like mental health facility that they used to have like people come in and do professional developments, and someone came in and was talking about schizophrenia, but this huge takeaway that I took from it was like exercise is so valuable in so many like areas.
Yeah.
And especially, I mean, like, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Like, of course, if you're taking care of yourself and you're being healthy, then your mental health is going to feel better, right? So it's like, oh, I feel better in more than one way.
Yeah. It's also why, like, when I'm consulting with schools, I always say, like, PE, recess, like, those are not the things to kind of be taken away as punishment because that movement is so valuable to the kids that probably need it the most.
That's so true. And I feel like when you think about it, like, oh, like PE is like a fun time. So if kids aren't
Right.
doing what they should be doing, then the fun should be taken away. But then it's really kind of like shooting yourself in the foot of,
Right.
oh, that's not the best if there's something else to do. But it's also for our own kids too. I feel like I don't know how your little one has been as of late, but I feel like I think
Well,
we've
you
talked about
know
this
there's a story
before too.
coming for that one.
I do actually. I was gonna let you tease it a bit, but it's coming up. But anywho, I know we've talked about too about like how people say, I think people have become a little bit wiser of like the terrible twos. And like I did not think that that was true. Like I loved the 2-year-old stage. It's the threenager
The threenagers just,
is
it's all
rough.
on another level.
Holy cow. My 3-year-old is now 3.5. So is yours. Especially this week, maybe the past 2 weeks. I don't know if he knows that like changes are coming, like with the weather.
Do you think
And
it had anything to do with the eclipse?
sure, let's say yes. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I feel like
Any
like we always knew when there was going to be a full moon at the
off of
therapeutic
it.
day school.
Yes.
I do kind of
100%.
now that I'm reflecting after the fact, and I will tell you what my youngest did last week. I am wondering if something with the eclipse and like the pull of the moon and whatnot
Sure, just
could
change
have
all of it.
had some impact.
But the attitude I've been getting, the straight 0 to 100, the constant demands and yelling at me all day. It's like he holds it together. And I know this is true too. He'll hold it together for school and he like
Yep.
walks in like little angel baby, like super cute, happy to see his teacher, gives her a hug. And the moment we like turn the corner from school, he's like, you give me goldfish. And I'm like, okay, all right, buddy. How was your day? I
Right.
love you too. But there's just been this like, and then it like kind of, I think it just like affects all of us too. Where then like I feel like I'm short with him. His sister is then like getting in his face. And if she could like, she's realized that her head doesn't have to stay still when she's talking. So she gives like the whole attitude too of like, no, I did not. This is mine. And her head's bobbing the whole time.
She gonna add the snaps in,
I
like
believe
the
it.
zigzag snaps.
Yeah. So there's just like a lot of energy recently that I'm like, what is going on?
Energy is a really nice way to put it.
Thank you. They're being butts.
It's a nice, yeah, they
Again, a
are.
nice way to put it. But yeah, a lot of energy.
I feel like ours really took off on Easter.
Oh,
Um, I am
mhm.
not, I'm gonna apologize to my parents. I am not super religious anymore. But my husband is
Mhm.
ish. Um, So he likes to take the boys to church for Easter, and I like to make, I grew up going to church and wanted to make sure that they looked nice.
Mm-hmm.
You and I had found some really cute like Hawaiian shirts to buy that were on sale for the upcoming trip, and I snagged a couple really cute button downs with like Easter bunnies and dogs and bunny ears on them. Button downs. I'm going to emphasize that. My older one is usually pretty good and will wear whatever I tell him to, although he's definitely at that stage where he would prefer to dress himself. My youngest has not allowed me to dress him since he was probably 18 months.
I love him.
He's
Mm-hmm.
a lot
Mm-hmm.
of energy.
Yeah.
So it started with a flat out refusal and tantrum about putting the shirt on, to the point that my husband had to just leave and take the older one to church because they were going to be late. So all morning he just kept screaming, I want to go to church. I don't think he actually knows what church is, to be
No,
fair.
he was left out. They left
Right.
without him. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
where they were going.
Yep. I made the choice to not engage in the power struggle, and just left it. Like, fine, you don't want to put the shirt on. That's okay. You're going to stay home with mom. He eventually put the shirt on and looked pretty darn cute in it, I must say.
Of course he did.
And then that week came swim lessons, which my youngest is a very active child, has
Mm-hmm.
always loved to swim. I did not take him this week, and this is nothing against my husband, because by no means was this his like
Yeah, because
his
like
fault or whatever, right? Like that's not where I'm going with this. I just happened to not be there. Brought the older one to swim lessons, found out our youngest may or may not have punched his swim coach in the face. And when I say may or may not have, he definitely did.
what was going on? Do you know?
So I have my suspicions,
Okay.
obviously
Yeah.
putting on my behavior specialist hat on, like,
Yeah.
was it attention seeking? Was he angry? What happened right before? I would take a guess that it was attention seeking, like wanted to see what kind of a reaction he got out of everyone by doing it, because he didn't
Mm-hmm.
seem angry. Um, I asked him what happened. His immediate response was, I said sorry. So I'm glad he apologized.
Sure.
Um, let's fast forward to this week, a week later. Karma came and bit him in the behind and gave him a bloody nose right before school pictures.
No, he didn't get punched.
No, oh no,
That kind of karma didn't go that far, but it was like,
just a random nosebleed at the perfect time.
oh, well,
And he was very proud of it.
oh, that he
Oh
got
yeah, he was
his
very
nose
excited to tell me that he smiled with blood on his face. I am going to suspect that his daycare teachers cleaned him up fairly well, and that
um,
I'm not going to get like a
like the gushing.
Rocky
Yeah.
picture
Oh.
for his school picture, but yeah, so
Oh.
here we are.
Yeah. That's a lot. He's
It's a lot. I think
yeah.
toddler just emotions are a lot to manage, and a lot of reframing has to be done on the adult's part, myself included.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so easy in those moments to just either, yeah, like snap back at them.
Right.
Like, and I don't know what your husband did, and whether he might not even have seen when your little one punched.
Oh, he definitely did. But I
Yeah.
don't think, from what
Oh,
I gathered, like, I don't think he got upset. I think he handled it really well in the moment.
yeah.
Um, and talked to him about it. And there were some consequences. He didn't get his weekly coloring sheet and sticker from swimming.
Okay, there you go.
It's a natural consequence,
Yes. Yep.
which I'm in support of those. I'm not in support of punishment.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you be clear? I mean, I understand what that means. Like when someone hears
Oh,
like I'm not in support, like natural consequences versus like what do you mean if you would have if it was been like a punishment?
yeah. So a consequence is just something that happens after the fact, right? So when we're talking about behavior, a lot of times you'll hear people talk about what was the antecedent or the consequence. Well, the antecedent is what happened right before the behavior. And a behavior is anything. A behavior is me sitting here talking to you. That's a
Yeah.
behavior.
Right.
So I don't want people to just necessarily associate the word behavior with
Bad.
bad.
Yeah, for sure. Because then you
Just
think about right. Because then when you're trying to think of like what do you want behavior changes, you obviously want it and want to think about what good is happening. What do you
right,
want to see in those situations? So yeah,
right.
behavior doesn't equal bad.
Behavior does not equal bad. And consequence, what happens right after, does not equal punishment, right? So for me, um, the natural consequence, what felt natural and didn't seem like out of the blue, was that you made a choice at swim class. It,
Mm.
I would have hoped that maybe we would have made a different choice, and that's okay. We all learn from our choices. So the natural consequence was that you didn't get the coloring sheet that we get weekly once you
Yeah.
complete swim lessons. Another example would be if my kid is refusing to put on his coat when we're going to walk the few blocks to daycare. And it's maybe 45, 50 degrees. A little
Yeah.
chilly, right? You walk out, you're cold. That's a consequence, right?
Yeah.
The choice you made was to not wear the coat. The consequence is now you're cold. You have a choice in that. You can either put the coat on or continue to be cold on the 2 block walk.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Versus like,
Punishment
yeah.
is, I guess the way that I like to think about it is it's adult enforced. And a lot of times there's no direct correlation or like connection to what it is, right? So
Like what
I
it has
misbehave
to do.
in math class, I lose recess.
Yeah. Versus like something happening in math class
Right.
for that scenario. Yeah.
Or like I refused to pick up my clothes and maybe I lose my iPad for the week.
Yeah.
Now,
No,
I'm
that's
not saying there aren't times that we might use some of those items that are more preferable and are used sometimes as reinforcement,
yeah.
that there isn't a time and a place maybe to remove that or at least lessen the frequency or the access to the reinforcer. I'm using a lot of behavioral terms right now.
That's good.
Um,
Yeah, put it out there.
but yeah, so I think a lot of times, and I think where I'm going with this, and this is coming from my work experience, right, in consulting with schools, is that a lot of times, like maybe a student's had a really hard time and we're having them do a puzzle or a coloring sheet, right, after that behavior. And people who maybe weren't involved have a really hard time understanding why you would be doing that, right? Because they feel like X, Y, and Z should have happened. And a lot
Meaning like they like a kid shouldn't be doing anything that's like quote unquote
of fun,
fun.
right?
Yeah.
Right. To me, that is, a lack of maybe understanding of behavioral techniques and how we work to modify behavior and emotional regulation,
Mm-hmm.
which is something we've talked a bit about on the podcast, in that really they're maybe not being punished the way that you would have wanted. And it's hard when we maybe weren't as well versed in these techniques when we were maybe growing up or when our parents were growing up, right? Like
Definitely. That's
you
such a
know,
shift. Yeah.
right? Like kids used to be spanked, and that's not really
Mm-hmm.
condoned nowadays. Right. And so when we're talking about a kid maybe doing a preferred activity or something that other people might view as fun, we're in a place where we're trying to get that child emotionally regulated.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means shifting topics or doing the preferred item for a little bit and then coming back to maybe a teaching moment or a conversation, or are we ready to now put on our coat for the walk, or are we finally ready to do some of those math problems that we weren't
Yeah.
ready to do before?
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes it does just feel like so counterintuitive, but like
it
you can
does.
like, break it down as to be like understanding the why. Like I'm they just think of my son, like what I've learned about him. And again, like every child's different, right? Like that's the beautiful and the difficult piece of it is that he'll like be screaming at me for something or yelling at something. And I could, and sometimes it's hard not to like take it personally in the sense of like, dude, like you know how to talk calmly, you know how to use your words or this, but he's screaming at me. And I'll simply be like, do you want a hug?
Yeah.
And it feels counterintuitive when he's yelling at me to like get close and offer that like love and instead of being like, no, stop yelling, like being firm with him.
Yeah.
But it's helps him, I've figured out that's what helps him shift. So then I can talk to him and he can engage in a conversation with me about like what does he need? Can he then ask me for something in a nicer way? But that like hug might just feel like again what you're saying, like to outsiders, it might just look like I'm giving in and getting close to him,
Right.
but that's not what's happening.
Yeah. And it makes me think of like, there's some really popular quotes floating around. One that, that just popped into my head that this reminded me of was the kid isn't giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time,
Yes. Yeah.
right? This
Mhm.
isn't, it's not purposeful, it's not intentional. There are times where maybe it's attention seeking, but part of that is trying to figure out those nuances and subtleties of social behavior that aren't explicitly taught,
Yeah. Which is
right?
there are many.
Yeah.
There are many.
The other one that it reminds me of is, and I think I posted this on my personal Instagram account this past week or last week about how we expect kids to be emotionally regulated when there are so many of us as adults that cannot regulate our own emotions.
Yeah. I
Right?
would
Like, think about
yeah.
how many times,
Mhm.
and I'm guilty of it too. And I do this
Totally.
for a living.
Yes. Yeah. I was watching I it might have been a TED Talk or it might have been just something that popped up on my Instagram, but it was a similar idea in the sense of like when we have babies, they cry and we try so many different things. We go through like the checklist of like, do they need to be changed? Are they hungry? Do they need to burp? Are they tired? All that stuff. And then the moment when kids, especially around the age of 2, when kids their language is starting to develop, we assume I'm raising my hand of like language developing. And then we assume that their emotion skills match their language skills as those are developing, even though they haven't been taught them.
Yeah.
And so what kids now all of a sudden are just expected to say how they feel. Like that's not going to happen.
Right.
Um, in like they're not gonna be like, I feel upset. Can you please, whatever. They have to be taught the same way they're taught that this is a cow, this is a cow, this is a cow. A cow says moo, a cow lives on a farm. Cow, like you know how many times you repeat yourself when you're teaching your kids new words.
Yeah. All of that repetition.
Yeah. It's the exact same thing when it comes to emotions and then tying it to situations. And
Right.
then it's not every situation is going to be the same. Those
Yeah.
are the nuances you're talking about. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, again, that also goes back to just being able to check in with yourself.
Yeah. And I
Are you
mean,
sleeping well? Did you have that onion loaded hot dog today for dinner? Like,
oh,
like, are you eating well? Like, what's going on in your world? Did you have like a really crappy day at work that all of a
right.
sudden I wasn't able to release like that energy. So now I'm withholding it. And now my kid's doing something. My fuse is so much shorter.
Or
But
I
yeah,
don't feel well and I don't know how to articulate that. You know what I mean? Like for a kid who maybe is nauseous and they don't really understand what nausea is,
right.
I just know I don't feel well.
Yes.
And when you're talking about like language development and emotional regulation and that development, our brains aren't fully developed till we're like, what? I think the research says 25-ish,
I mean,
right? Like the average is
add on there.
25,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
right?
just saying, like, it's
Like
a hard skill.
emotional regulation is a high, like it's a higher level skill that doesn't, we just can't, I think it's easy to expect our kids to behave in a certain way.
Right.
Behavior is communication. They're communicating something to us. So, we as the adults, hopefully a little bit more regulated than
Yeah,
the kids
right.
are, right? How can we help A, figure out what's going on for them, B, help them regulate, right? Some of that co-regulation stuff we've talked about in previous episodes.
Yeah.
Um, and then use it as a teaching moment when they're ready,
Yes.
so that they can hopefully kind of generalize those skills. And the hardest part is to use those skills in the moment. It's real easy to teach it and talk about it when you're calm,
Mhm.
but what we know about rational thought is that kind of, it's like the like polar opposite effect, right? As behavior, and by behavior in this situation, I'm talking about maladaptive behavior, bad behavior. I don't like the word bad. Um, but
Like
as that
unacceptable.
behavior starts to increase, rational thought decreases. So it's a lot harder to stop and think
Yeah.
about what words I'm saying and what the impact of the words I'm using are on others, what the impact of my behavior is on others. It's just,
Mhm.
it's a skill that doesn't come overnight.
Yeah.
And it's
Like,
hard when their language skills seem so
mhm.
much more advanced or further along than the
Yes.
emotional regulation piece.
Yeah. I think it's just like these long weeks where it feels like the moon, the sun, the universe, all this energy is to just take what you said, like that reframe, being able to tell yourself in those moments, like, my kid is not trying to piss me off. My kid is not trying to make my day be crummy.
Right.
Like, that's not their end goal. Like, as
No.
smart as my kids are, they're not that smart, like that's not what they're trying to do.
Right.
So I think just sometimes it's so hard to be like, oh my gosh, like, what are you guys doing? Like,
Yeah. And most
or for me just
people,
to go like stop. And I'm like, well, no, it's not gonna do anything.
right.
But I do it.
And most people don't wake up every day thinking, who can I piss off today?
I know. I know.
Right?
No,
Like,
I don't.
so
I was trying to think of somebody who, but I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I really don't. That's not who we are. It's
yeah.
not how we're wanting to be wired. But kids also too, like if they're if they found a way to be effective and if it's not the most helpful way, they're gonna try and do it again. Like I'm adding on another layer of like if it worked for them for some regard, like maybe your son did get the attention that he wanted. So then it's also like, okay, let's be mindful of like, is that going to become a pattern?
Right.
Or did he figure out, okay, what I did and I lost that coloring sheet? Where is it? Where is that more powerful
Yeah.
for him to like continue on?
And I think for him, he loves to like goof off and have a good time at swimming. And so
Yeah.
part of me wonders, was this his way of trying to goof off and it
Right.
didn't
I'm
go
not
well?
saying your son all of a sudden is gonna like start punching everybody, but but that's like obviously we don't want that.
Right.
But I mean, it's not a pattern by any means. But if kids are gonna try and see what works, and if they've done something, they might try and do it again, but
Hopefully the
hopefully not.
subconscious very understanding about it.
That's
And
good.
that's what you hope, right? You hope that you've got an understanding adult who
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
recognizes some of those pieces and isn't going to take it personally.
Exactly. But so for anyone out there, I feel like our kids are really trying to navigate this wild world, as are we still, and it's ever changing. And it's just reminding yourself to like check in with how you're feeling in those moments. What can you do first? And just know your kids. You love your kids, they love you. End of the day. Look back at those photos that you've taken, like the 800 photos of your kids at the end of the day, and be like, They are funny, they're goofy, they're loving. They just be able to kind of smile about it.
And hope that they don't have a face full of blood on their school pictures, from a bloody nose.
No, my
And if he
son,
does,
that's
I
okay.
will look back on this time and laugh.
Yeah. You at least have a photo. My son being the most stubborn right now in this age. At picture day, he flat out refused. He was just like a quiet refuser, like did not get in front of the camera. Nope. Nope. Just very calmly. No.
You know what? He was advocating for
No.
himself that he didn't want his picture taken.
So he will be one of those kids with like, I don't know what photo is gonna be in
Do
that
they put
little
like the like portrait
that like
really
outline.
black, the outline of the body, and then like the question mark of like,
I
who
don't
could
know
this
what they're gonna
be?
do. I'm sure I have to like submit a photo, but I was like, so at least you'll have a photo, look back and be like,
That's
remember
true.
this.
See, it's
My
all about reframing.
he'll probably wonder when he's like older, like, where's my preschool photo? And I'll be like, you refuse, buddy.
Yep.
You didn't want to, so we just have this story to tell.
The stories we have of our children.
Love them.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. To catch all of the latest, you can follow us on Instagram @_and then we had kids. Thanks again, and like we say, life used to be carefree, and then we had kids.